Xochicalco, the place of the House of Flowers. One thing that's unusual about Xochicalco, when comparing it to other pre-Columbian Mesoamerican sites,
is the way it's set up so defensively, almost like a European castle. Unlike, think, Tikal or Chichen Itza or Teotihuacan, all of the cities, as far as I can tell, were made much more flat.
It's generally understood that Xochicalco grew to prominence after the fall of Teotihuacan and before the rise of the tri-state power in central Mexico that today we call the Aztecs. So they evolved in a time of instability and had to protect themselves. You can see that anyone wanting to attack the city would have had a hard enough time getting up the hill, and then they'd be faced with these towering walls. Almost everywhere in Xochicalco, you get a fantastic view of the Valle de Morelos below. This would have been another defensive advantage to them, as they could see who was entering their land. The people who built the city and lived here were a product of many mixtures. They probably spoke a dialect of Nahuatl, and they certainly shared many characteristics of other Mesoamerican societies, like the ball game, the feathered serpent, and they were excellent astronomers, and they counted in the vigesimal system. They also used what we refer to today as the Maya calendar, which seems to us a very complicated system of multiple intertwining calendars. The number 13 was very important to them, and of course they counted in 20s. Their sacred calendar was of 260 days. To our simple brains it seems to be a bizarre number. Perhaps combining 13 with 20 makes 260. A little bit later in this video, I'll show you a probable reason for the 260-day calendar. Like all Mesoamerican cities, the placement of the buildings is by no means random. If you stand by the stela in the middle of this plaza, you could see many points on the surrounding buildings that aligned with astronomical phenomena. Notice these ditches. They not only controlled the rainwater, but they also led it to a series of cisterns that stored the water. Very important for a city at the top of a hill, particularly in this area, where there can be virtually no rainfall for a couple of months in summer. The more powerful people lived higher up and closer to the center, again, just like a European castle. At this level, some of the higher-ranking people had the luxury of a steam bath, a temazcal. And below, you can see the second ball court. Ball courts all across Mesoamerica differ in their size and shape, and many cities have more than one ball court, and as we can see here, the proportions of a court can vary dramatically even within the same city. Opposite the steam baths is a large room where you can still see some of the original paint. One of the star attractions of Xochicalco is the famous temple of the feathered serpent. The bas-relief panels are unusual for central Mexican sites. It's much more common in the Maya area, and this hints perhaps at the multicultural characteristics of the city and its times. The iconography again deals with cosmology, dates, and rulers. In total, there are 8 plumed serpents. Some archaeologists suggest that here the serpents don't represent Quetzalcoatl, but more the water deity, as is represented in the north, particularly in Teotihuacan. And the seated figure with the magnificent headdress certainly looks like something you'd see in Maya territory. Under this massive man-made pyramid may lie the answer to the mystery of the sacred 260-day calendar. Inside is a cave, which was too dark to get good video or photos, so I've adapted some drawings by Rubén B. Morante to make the point. If you look at the ceiling of the cave, you see what looks like a hexagonal vent, perfectly straight, lined carefully with stone, almost 9 meters from the ceiling to the exit. That's almost 30 feet. Now, because of the latitude of where Mexico lies, a vent like this would allow the sun to shine directly through to the ground, starting on the 30th of April, and the last day, where it touched the ground, will be the 12th of August, or a total of 105 days, leaving precisely 260 days where the light did not shine through directly. 260 days plus 105 is 365 days, the length of a year. Their system means that the projection would naturally cycle to a point where every 4 years the first shine through would flip over to the 1st of May, thus compensating for the leap year in a most elegant and accurate manner. The Acropolis is the highest area and the residence of the rulers of Xochicalco. Originally the complex contained 2 floor levels, although we can only see 1 now. On the eastern side we can see the smaller rooms and beds, which were probably the residential area. On the western side we can see much larger rooms, 4 large halls with a central courtyard which may well have been used for formal or ceremonial purposes. The view from this area is truly spectacular.